Okay, for lesson 6, you're going to start talking about using transitions. So remember that transitions connect your ideas together. So you want to connect your ideas and words with phrases that are called transitions. These will take the reader from one idea to the next and show how they are related. This also provides cohesion by flowing logically from one idea to the next. So remember in our last lesson, we talked about using transitions to provide that flow between paragraphs and moving from one section to the next. So that's what you're going to be focusing on for this particular lesson. So remember that you can do this by putting your order of events. You can also use sentence logic, including compare and contrast, cause and effect, and examples. So there's different transitions that you would use based on the different type of essay that you are writing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and watch a couple of videos on transitions, and then we'll come back and close out with one final thought.
We speak student.
Transitions, a la Schmuck, not the contact lenses. You've probably spoken to someone at one time or another who didn't use transitions in their speech. It likely sounded something like this. I love hot dogs. Do you swim? Flowers are pretty, aren't they? How many pets do you have? I have to go to the bathroom. Sound like any 5-year-olds you know?
What are you talking about? I've got it together.
Any lawyers? There may actually be some link between all these thoughts, but the world will never know, because that guy failed to use transitions. You can think of transitions as signposts that are scattered through your essay, which help your readers navigate the various ideas you introduce.
Good thing I changed into my comfy shoes.
They basically help make clear what one thing has to do with another, so your readers don't get lost, which is a good thing because they only have enough water to last them a few days. Your goal is to craft a paper that flows so smoothly that it isn't jarring when you go from one paragraph to the next. It should feel more like a steady stream of thought than a crashing waterfall of thought. There are two major types of transitions: those that transition through words and those that transition through ideas. Transition words indicate a relationship between a couple of ideas. So instead of, I was just bitten by a raccoon, I've had my shots, you could say, I was just bitten by a raccoon. However, I've had my shots. The sentence doesn't change much, but it's much clearer in the second example why you switch from talking about rabid woodland creatures to your medical history.
Eat 2 discarded banana peels and call me in the morning.
You're establishing a connection between the two. Transitions can show contrast with words like but, however, in contrast, or whereas. They can show similarity as in additionally, also, or similarly. Or they can demonstrate a sequence: first, second, next, subsequently, or previously. But you can also transition through ideas. See how we transition there? To transition through ideas, you can make a reference to a key phrase from earlier in your paper to draw a connection. And it doesn't have to be an exact repetition of a phrase. It can simply be a restating or further exploration of a topic that was brought up previously. For example, if you mention in paragraph 2 that cats and dogs are capable of feeling emotion,
This is my sad face, if you can believe it.
and then in paragraph 3 you talk about what a crime it is to abuse animals, you've created a transition. Oi, my kishkas! By using common or related words to make a connection between two different parts of your paper, you allow your reader to do some thinking for themselves.
I thought this was going to be my day off.
After all, readers don't want everything spoon-fed to them. Maybe just a little banana pudding after dinner, thank you. How to write a good transition sentence, a la Schmuck. You can't go from the highway to anywhere else without an exit ramp. You can't get from one classroom to another without going down a hallway. And you can't go from one point to another in an essay without a transition. So how do you write good transition sentences? Transition sentences exist to guide your reader from one idea to the next. You don't want to jump from talking about Violet Beauregard to talking about serial killers without some sort of transition. Unless your reader really hates Willy Wonka or blueberries, they're not going to follow that logic. If an essay represents your train of thought, each of the paragraphs are different cars on this train. They need to be hooked together by a strong transition, or one of them is going to jump the track. And if that's the dining car, well, it's going to make a huge mess. Think of the feedback you've received from your teacher or peers. If they've called your work choppy or disjointed or hard to follow, you might just need a few good transitions to get your essays back on track. The first thing to try is simply use transition words such as next and however to link your paragraphs together, like this and this. Your transition sentence can come at the end of a paragraph or at the beginning of the next one. Experiment with both and we'll see what feels right. If your ideas are similar, you can link them together with phrases like also, likewise, or in the same way. Yeah, check out these phrases. Dun, dun, dun. In much the same way, but a little different, sometimes you need to contrast things. When contrasting, you can use linking words and phrases like but, yet, nevertheless, and however. However, hey, look what we just did. If you're listing things like detailed characteristics of the different cars in a descriptive essay about trains, transitions come in handy too. Here are a few good transitions to use when providing additional support to your thesis. Additionally, also, in addition, and furthermore. Furthermore, there are times when you need to emphasize a point, perhaps right before you go into your kick butt closing paragraph. Good emphatic transitions include indeed, in fact, truly, and of course, of course. Of course, whoa, did it again there. See, we slipped it in. There's no set way to transition between paragraphs. Sometimes all you need is a next or a however. Sometimes you can compare with words like also and likewise, or contrast with words like but and nevertheless, or emphasize your point with indeed, in fact, and of course. And the key idea here is that the ideas link. So you got to ask yourself the real heavy questions there. Does this paragraph connect with that one? Does it make logical sense? Then the transitions ought to flow. Okay, finally. And yeah, that's a good transition word too. Never underestimate the power of a well-placed and. Sometimes the small words are the best, especially when they're trying to stop a runaway train.
Okay, so just make sure that you add transitions into your essay. Remember to check out the list of common transition words and phrases that are attached in this lesson. And then make sure that you are using a variety of transition words. Don't use the same transition word over and over again in your essay.